IGN First for the month of June 2022 is all about Sonic Frontiers. We've got gameplay, we've got previews, and we've got interviews from the developers who made it all happen. All month long, we'll be diving deep into what you can expect when the game makes its way to you later down the road. First up, we've got the world premiere gameplay focusing on exploring the mysterious island that Sonic suddenly finds himself stranded on at the start of the game. Be sure to stick with IGN throughout June so you don't miss anything. Until then, here's your first look at gameplay from Sonic Frontiers. IGN First continues on with yet another look at Sonic Frontiers gameplay, this time focusing on combat. Sonic is up against an all-new set of baddies, some of which are among the most massive bosses we've ever seen in a Sonic game. Fortunately, Sonic's got some new tricks up his sleeve. Make sure to stick with IGN all throughout June because we've got a full hands-on preview and interviews from the developers in store. For now though, enjoy the combat of Sonic Frontiers. Sonic's done a lot in 30 years. He's been a pioneer of the high-speed 2D platformer, an Olympic athlete, a respectable kart racing enthusiast, a fighter, a TV star, and a Hollywood blockbuster movie star as well. But he's never done open world, and Sonic Frontiers fixes to change that. I was fortunate enough to be one of the first people outside of Sonic Team to go hands-on with Sonic Frontiers, and let me just say, if you're worried about how the blue blur will fare in this unfamiliar genre, well, I think Crush 40 probably put it best. Open your heart, it's gonna be alright. The first thing that struck me about Sonic Frontiers was how uniquely somber and serene it was right from the outset. After flying into a wormhole with Tails and Amy, Sonic finds himself separated from his friends and all alone on an isolated island, with nothing but an AI voice guiding him to collect the Chaos Emeralds. There's no one for Sonic to bounce quips off of, no energetic Crush 40 soundtrack, just wide open fields as far as the eye can see. There's an air of mystery in Sonic Frontiers, and it's a vibe that's driven home even further by the beautiful yet minimalist piano melodies that accompany Sonic as he explores the island. All of this is a very intentional choice. I asked Sonic Team head Takashi Izuka to describe how the tone of Sonic Frontiers differs from previous Sonic games, and he said, past games in the Sonic series have taken different tones depending on their stories and themes. This time, these mysterious islands are the game's major setting. That's why our artists have worked hard to create a mysterious mood. Of course, the big new change in Sonic Frontiers is the shift from purely linear levels to a huge open world where Sonic can freely run in any direction. But Sonic Team doesn't like to use the term open world to describe Sonic Frontiers' gameplay, instead referring to its style as being open zone. Open world games like Zelda or other AAA games fundamentally have RPG or adventure worlds. For Sonic, the core here is a 3D action game. Our basic idea was to have that take place in open space. What sets Sonic Frontiers apart is this different approach to an open game world. Having played Sonic Frontiers for about 4 hours, it's easy to see what Izuka-san means. Sonic Frontiers' open zone design is very different from any other open world I've played. It's a giant playground. Every few feet there's a bumper spring that bounces you like a pinball between 5 other bumpers before putting you on one of the many grindable rail tracks. Or a speed ramp that sets you on a completely different path leading to some other collectible or reward. Or a line of rings that you can lightspeed dash into. Essentially, they've taken that core appeal of every Sonic level having multiple paths that eventually loop back around to the main one, and applied that to these giant non-linear open zones. One thing that has to be noted is that very few of these elements are built into the environmental design, meaning that rails, platforms, boost rings, and so on are just inexplicably floating in the air all around, which isn't totally unusual for a Sonic game, but it feels especially jarring in Frontiers in particular because of the frequent and sudden pop-in of these objects and the otherwise very naturalistic art style. Of course, it's worth emphasizing that this gameplay and the version that I played were from an early build, but this is definitely an area that I would hope to see improvement in the final version. Beyond that, there are also a wide variety of puzzles and challenges that are littered throughout the zone, and completing them is how you uncover sections of your map. Most of these are very simple, requiring you to orient a statue the correct way, quickly hop back and forth between colored tiles, or use Sonic's new side loop ability to draw circles around certain objects in the environment to interact with them. The best ones though are the races against the clock where you have to get from point A to point B in a limited amount of time. The openness of Frontiers level design makes straightforward races like these a ton of fun, because you have to try and improvise a path to the end that might not be immediately obvious. There are some exceptions, but combat in traditional Sonic games generally isn't a thing that goes much deeper than jumping, rolling, or using a homing attack into enemies at the right time. That changes in Sonic Frontiers, which now has you fighting all sorts of wandering enemies and mini-bosses using an all-new array of incredibly flashy attacks. It's not all style and no substance though. Sonic is able to quickly dodge using the bumper buttons on the gamepad, and by pressing them together, he can even parry attacks with the right timing. His homing attack also feels much more powerful, landing with a ton of impact and keeping Sonic stuck to his enemy, allowing for a flurry of follow-up strikes. One of the things that I really appreciate about the combat from what I played is that there are usually multiple ways to deal with specific enemies. Like, take for example this guy, who has an impenetrable shell that he can expand into spinning blades and throw at you. One way to deal with him is just to carefully time your homing attacks so you don't get hit by the blades. But if you do that, the window to damage him is small. To increase that window, you can either parry the blades and knock them away right before they hit you, or you can even use Sonic's side loop ability to encircle the enemy, which causes the shell to go flying upwards. Defeating these enemies will reward you with EXP that you can use to purchase new skills from a skill tree, which gives Sonic Frontiers a really nice feeling of power progression, even in just the relatively short amount of time that I played. Some of the later skills that you can get are just unbelievably cool, and it's super satisfying to see Sonic Team experiment with different ways that Sonic can attack enemies beyond just spins, jumps, and bumps. In addition to these smaller enemies, there are also a handful of enormous world bosses that I had to contend with. These are near Shadow of the Colossus-esque in their scale, with one in particular against a beast named Asura requiring Sonic to bait the Titan to slam the ground and then boost up its arm in order to reach the weak spots on its head. It's an ambitious boss battle, far beyond anything I've seen in the Sonic series to date, but it's also the part of the game that needs the most work. Far too often I'd fly off the boss's arm without knowing why, or I'd get to the top and for some reason lack the momentum needed to actually reach the head. Sonic must hunt down and defeat these bosses in order to collect portal gears, which open up portals that lead to bite-sized linear stages, done in the style of previous Sonic games, giving Sonic Frontiers a nice mix of both old and new styles. These classic levels each come with a handful of optional goals, like beating the level under a certain time, collecting all the red rings, and so on, with each goal rewarding you with a vault key, which are needed to unlock the coveted Chaos Emeralds. Sonic Frontiers is an exciting new step forward for the Sonic series into uncharted territory, and based on my time with it, Sonic Team seems to have hit upon a winning formula. There's certainly still work to be done before it's released during the holiday season. There's a lot of distracting pop-in, there's a fair amount of bugs still left to be squashed, and the big boss fights could do with some tweaking. But ultimately, my time with this early build answered the one question I had on my mind. Will Sonic's one-of-a-kind gameplay translate into an open world? The answer is a resounding absolutely. Thanks for watching, and tune into IGN for more Sonic Frontiers coverage as part of IGN First. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
We look forward to sharing the entire short later this year. Spin dash into a new zone. Sonic's latest action-adventure kicks off on the vibrant Starfall Islands, home to a mysterious civilization. Here, you can freely dash through a vast open zone, taking full advantage of Sonic's speedy skills. Lock on and attack enemies standing in your way. Chain together attacks to trigger combos and rack up damage. With good timing, you can even deflect enemy attacks. Acquire skills to bolster Sonic's arsenal of moves. You can also enter a special zone called Cyberspace. Take on challenges at supersonic speeds and grab keys to progress. What awaits Sonic on these strange islands? Sonic Frontiers dashes onto Nintendo Switch this holiday.
Your reckless actions endanger the world. You cannot run forever. Leave. Immediately.
In Sonic's newest adventure, he's headed to the Starfall Islands in search of Chaos Emeralds with his friends, Amy and Tails, when trouble strikes, suddenly sucking their plane into a dimensional portal. Our bristly hero awakens in a strange, digital world called cyberspace. Despite being separated from his friends,
Sonic miraculously escapes from this alternate dimension and arrives on Kronos.
one of the beautiful Starfall Islands, a curious wilderness full of ancient ruins, strange inhabitants, and sinister enemies. Our loyal Blue Hedgehog must now find his lost friends, explore this exotic world, and solve the mystery of the Starfall Islands. Sonic Frontiers expands on what fans know and love about traditional Sonic games, combining linear level gameplay and open zone platforming into a new, action-filled Sonic experience. The world map is bigger than ever, giving Sonic more room to run and explore his surroundings. Sonic Frontiers offers high-speed, open-zone gameplay that gives you the freedom to play the game in the order that best matches your playstyle. Engage in exhilarating combat with exciting new enemies, solve intriguing puzzles, and complete fun side quests to help rescue Sonic's friends. Solving puzzles will reward the player with items that can increase Sonic's power and defense, reveal hidden parts of the map, and unlock new ways to navigate the island at fast speeds. Scattered around the Starfall Islands are cyberspace portals. Defeat bosses throughout the island to earn portal gears that unlock these stages. You'll need to complete challenges within each cyberspace stage to earn vault keys that can be used to unlock Chaos Emerald vaults and allow you to progress further in the game. In Sonic Frontiers, Sonic's combat gets an upgrade, making battling enemies more exciting and fluid than ever before. With an all-new skill tree system featuring a host of new abilities to unlock and level up, you'll have plenty of options to fight strategically, combine dodges, parries, counters, and more. If you prefer more straightforward gameplay, check out Auto Combos, where various attack combos can be executed with a single button. These modes make it possible for all Sonic fans to easily enjoy the fast and flexible new combat system. Sonic's enhancements don't stop there. He's learned a new ability called Silute, a band of light that mirrors Sonic's tracks. Surround enemies, items, and areas to uncover different effects and unlock all the secrets of the Starfall Islands. Get ready to blaze your own trail and forge a new frontier in Sonic Frontiers. Available November 8th. Stay tuned for more details.
Sound the You're not around. Come and leave your mark. Vandalize my heart. Find the pain away. My head is in ruins. Need you in my veins. Don't know how you do it. Come and leave your mark. Vandalize my heart. Then we make a work of art just so you could deface the vigilante.
Sonic Frontiers introduces a new take on the action-adventure and platforming genres by combining blistering speed with blazing combat. For the first time, Sonic has a skill tree full of exciting and powerful new abilities to learn. To unlock new skills, you'll need to collect enough skill pieces from fallen enemies and breakable items around the islands. Sonic also has his standard moveset, including a homing attack, drop dash, and stomp at the beginning of the game. While these moves are effective against normal enemies, you'll need to level up and unlock new skills if you want to take on bigger and stronger foes awaiting you on the Starfall Islands. A normal enemy on Kronos Island is nothing compared to those on later islands. So make sure you're collecting the red seeds of power and blue seeds of defense to boost your stats and give yourself a fighting chance. As the game progresses and Sonic levels up, so do your enemies. Completing combos is a good way to get the upper hand during battle, especially when paired with a new skill called Phantom Rush. Sonic's combo meter will fill up after attacking enemies consecutively. Once the combo meter is maxed out, Phantom Rush is activated, and your attack power will be boosted until the meter reaches 0. To deal massive amounts of damage in a short burst, use Sonic Boom, a long-range, high-speed kick that unleashes shockwaves at the enemy. Another option to dish out major hurt on your enemies is Wild Rush, a flashy, zigzagging attack that sends you crashing into your targets with great force. It's a fast and stylish way to hit your enemies hard while avoiding incoming fire. Certain enemies in Sonic Frontiers have a shield or barrier protecting them. Break their shield with Psyloop and then deal as much damage as you can before it goes back up. If your opponent happens to land a hit on you, just use the Psyloop ability on the ground to collect more rings and get back in the fight. During combat, you'll need to study your opponents and determine the best strategy to take them on. Encounters with Guardians will require more than just using your homing attack. Many of them prompt you to engage with their unique combat mechanics first before reaching their weak spot. Once you have an opening, you can dish out all the skills you've unlocked from the skill tree. Experimenting with new abilities and discovering each enemy's weakness will help you defeat them with ease. Use your enemy's moves against them by utilizing parry during combat. A visual cue lets you know when an enemy is about to attack. If you react quickly enough, you can parry it and follow it up with a counterattack of your own. Using all these skills and more gives you tons of options to become the most formidable force in the frontier. Master your approach to battle and teach your enemies not to mess with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Back in May, when I played Sonic Frontiers for my first preview, I came away with an overall positive first impression, but also a feeling that there was still a good bit of work to be done. The game felt buggy, the performance didn't feel optimized, and there was a ton of distracting pop-in of objects and obstacles floating around in the sky. Here we are 5 months later, and I got a chance to go hands-on again with a PC build of Sonic Frontiers, this time for a full 6 hours to check out the first 3 islands in their entirety. And while a lot of those same issues I experienced the first time I played are still present, the pop-in, and a handful of minor bugs, it is clear that a lot of work has gone into tightening up Sonic Frontiers' performance and polishing its visuals. Let me be clear, it is still an uneven experience, both visually and mechanically, but when my time was up and all I thought about was the disappointment of not being able to play more, that seemed like a good sign that Sonic Frontiers is in a pretty healthy spot heading into its imminent November 8th release. The big thing I got to experience this time around versus my first play session was the full sense of progression through each island. I've talked previously about how you need to collect portal keys to open up cyberspace levels, beat cyberspace levels to get vault keys, and use vault keys to unlock Chaos Emeralds, but there's another important element to the game flow as well: memory tokens. Each of the 3 islands was home to one of Sonic's friends who were trapped in cyberspace, and in order to try and free them, I needed to collect a ton of memory tokens. Typically, these are rewards for exploration in the open world, and they're the main reason you'll be looking out for springs, ramps, grind rails, speed boosters, and all other manner of gadgets that send you zooming through the world. Collecting and delivering these memory tokens back to your friend is one of the ways you'll progress Sonic Frontiers' story forward. Every time I made a delivery, I was rewarded with a cutscene between Sonic and his trapped friend that would shed a little bit of light on the mysterious Starfall Islands and the cute little native rock people known as Korons that inhabit it. There is a compelling mystery that serves as the heart of Sonic Frontiers' story, and I found myself very interested in seeing how it all unfolds, and even more interested in the dynamics between Sonic and each of his friends, which really takes center stage during these cutscenes. Each island has a story to tell, with each of Sonic's friends being a key player in how that story unfolds. I managed to clear the first island in my first 3 hours or so of playtime, and after a very cool boss battle that I can't and wouldn't want to spoil for you, I found myself on Ares Island, a desert-themed island that housed all new enemies, mini-bosses, cyberspace levels, and memory tokens. Here, I had to repeat the hunt for the Chaos Emeralds again. In that way, Sonic Frontiers is very formulaic. But the 3 islands I've explored so far were so different that I was happy to repeat the dance each time. The one weak point in this whole formula are the Guardian mini-boss battles, which are required in order to obtain the portal keys that unlock the cyberspace levels. These fights are typically grand in their spectacle, but are rarely actually fun to play. And worse, they're repeated multiple times throughout the island without any variation. Fortunately, there are a few exceptions, like a fight against a sumo guardian that encloses you in a cage and requires you to bounce off the fences in order to bump the boss into the electrified portion. The more you bounce, the more force you're able to bump the boss with, and trying to find the right angle to bounce a bunch of times before hitting the boss was a lot of fun. And then there are the cyberspace levels, which, like the Guardian mini-bosses, varied in their quality, but were all fun nevertheless. Each is a bite-sized traditional Sonic level that comes with 3 sub-challenges to complete, in addition to just beating the stage. They are beat the level under the S-rank time limit, beat the level with a certain number of coins, and find all 5 red coins. Even though these stages are very short, even by Sonic standards, I found that the short length of each one actually lent itself well to how replayable they were. I would retry some of them for 10 or 15 minutes, trying to find the optimum path that would get me to the exit in time for the S-rank clear, or trying to find that last red coin, or simply to try and see all the different paths that level offered. From a level design perspective, the variety on display in the many different cyberspace levels that I played was pretty impressive. Some would be very straightforward, grounded boost levels, focused on speed and reactions, while others would be very grind rail heavy, and still others would shift the perspective to 2D and be a little more deliberate with their platforming challenges. Hands down, the best cyberspace stage that I played was one that broke the tradition of being a short bite-sized level and was stretched out to about 2 or 3 minutes in length and had a bunch of hidden shortcuts off the beaten path that were a ton of fun to discover. As varied as the level design is though, the one disappointment about cyberspace is that the visual theme around them, based on my 6 hours of playtime, always falls into one of just a few categories. Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, Sky Temple, or the new Cyberspace Highway theme, and that's about it. Still, the music and the speed made them a consistent highlight of my playtime. The bulk of the time spent playing Sonic Frontiers was spent running fast through the various open zones, and while it is a big departure from what Sonic fans may be used to from the series, I have to say that I'm officially fully on board with it. In a weird way, I kind of liken it to a Tony Hawk game. It's that same feeling of chaining a revert to a manual, linking that to a grind, taking that grind over a gap, acing a special trick or two, and then sticking the landing. Sonic Frontiers has that same type of feeling of doing a bunch of cool things, one after the other, and linking them all together without breaking the flow. And when the flow does get broken, it feels pretty bad, but the more you play and the better you become at the game, the longer you're able to go without breaking that flow, leading to a really great feeling not just of power progression through the game mechanics, but also from your own skill. It's also worth mentioning that in the beginning of the game, Sonic does feel a bit slow in comparison to other games in the series. However, his speed can be leveled up all the way to level 99. The highest I got to was level 10, and considering he already felt pretty fast even at just that relatively low level, I can't imagine how fast he'll be at max level. Stay tuned for our full Sonic Frontiers review closer to launch, and if you want to see what I previously said about Sonic Frontiers, check out my previous preview. Also be sure to check out this look at gameplay from Chaos Island. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
Angel Island. A land of miracles, of mysteries. My home. I am its guardian. I watch over the Master Emerald and every living thing here. That is to say, all the plants and animals. Any other kind of civilization has long since disappeared from the island. I do things on my own, and that's just how I like it. I don't need anyone else to get by. But sometimes, I wonder how things would be if I hadn't been given this responsibility. Why was I chosen for this duty? Perhaps it's karma. Thousands of years ago, my ancestors attempted to steal a power that wasn't theirs. The question is, Whose power was it originally? Who built this shrine to the emeralds? And where did they go? To protect my home, I need to know every possible vulnerability. I've explored the island top to bottom, but I still manage to find something new every day. New routes between regions, ruins of different echidna tribes, and remnants of some group that came before. Hold on, little guy. I'll help. Hey, there. Here. This is what you were looking for, right? Huh? This is different. Oh. It looks old. Even older than these ruins. I wonder... What was that? What? Where am I? This isn't my island. Is this another one of your tricks, Eggman? Show yourself! Oh, an ambush, huh? Your funeral. Whoever's behind this better show yourself now. We'll settle this in a fair fight. And after I win, you'll send me home. Got it? On my own. That's just how I like it. I don't need anyone else to get by. But sometimes